What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a special Tuesday episode of the Going Broadway podcast. Alex and Cole with you, though, as always. Cole, what's happening?
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the greatest wrestling podcast ever. And if there was ever a day to say there's a lot to talk about, there is today, because we haven't had a show in a good minute. So
it's been a couple weeks. So first off, my apologies that our interview with Camille didn't end up working out last week. We are still efforting to reschedule with her, but she got some times mixed up. She was actually on Busted Open Radio at close to the same time she was supposed to be on with us, but she got the Eastern and Central time zones mixed up, and it would have conflicted with us. And unfortunately, excuse me, we are the little guys at this point compared to Busted Open Radio. So, excuse me, we totally understand that, and so I'm in communication with her, and hopefully we'll get that rescheduled. So, but that being said, this is going to be completely improvised this morning. We don't have any kind of our tiles that are off to the right part of your screen usually. Cole and I have not talked about anything ahead of time. We're just going to do this on the fly. We have no idea how long this is going to last. It could be 30, 40 minutes. We could go 2 hours. Who knows? But there's a lot to talk about, so I have a feeling we won't have any issue filling up a decent amount of time. So before we jump in, let's see who we got on the chat this morning. We got Jeremy, Jeffrey, Billy, Ray, Lumpy. Just a blanket good morning to everybody. So before we jump into some topics, you've got something to open.
We need a mail time song at this point.
We do. Cole got a box from a certain frequent listener, frequent viewer, frequent
mailer,
commenter, frequent gifter So Cole will open that right now. It might take him a couple minutes because it is packed well.
Taped. It's taped very, very well.
While he's doing that, I know we're gonna talk a little bit about Jeff Hardy's situation for sure. We might recap Hell in a Cell from a couple weeks ago. I know, excuse me. I know that New Japan Dominion was this past weekend. We have a lot of new champions as well to discuss. We have NWA Always Ready. I know Jeffrey alluded to that. Cole finally got the tape off, and it's okay. I was gonna say I thought it was gonna be maybe another package to unbox, but it's already been opened. Oh, there's two. Oh no,
it's just one.
Okay,
let's pull it out here. Let's see what we got. It is clothing.
It is clothing.
All right.
Oh man,
we have a.
And his name is John Cena!
I'm sure we'll also be talking about John Cena's return to WWE here in a couple weeks, week and a half.
I got to say thank you to good old Thomas Russell for that. Appreciate it, man. I'm excited about this. For those of you who are in like our chat groups and stuff, a while back, I had posted a kind of a John Cena wish list, if you will. So in my office, I am setting it up to have like 4 corners, 4 ropes, and it's going to be my 4 favorite wrestlers. And so right now I'm focused on getting my John Cena section done, and getting those jerseys was on the list. And so that's a huge one, man. So thank you so much for sending that. I really do appreciate it, and it probably will get framed and hung up in my office. I don't know how often I'll actually wear it because I want to keep it looking nice.
With an O.
With an O. Nice.
What? I'm just curious. Why is it Cincinnati Bengals colors?
So they had 3 that I know of. They had the camouflage one, which is the one I told you it was like probably my top.
That's the only one I know of.
And then they have a black, almost Brooklyn Nets looking basketball jersey with his name on it. And then they have that one. Those are the only 3 that I've seen. I think there's a baseball one out there too, but I can't remember what it looks like.
I would guess it's probably Yankees.
Possibly.
But real quick, in response to DJ Jesse Lee and Lumpy's comments, actually, you're both wrong. It's I think it's CMLL, the ones that are being difficult here with the Forbidden. So we'll just lead in with that. Forbidden Doors coming up, which, by the way, small plug. We are having a watch party for Forbidden Door Sunday, June 26th. 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central is the start time for the pay-per-view. We will actually be going live an hour prior to that. So join us at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. We'll be going live, but there will be, I'm sure, plenty of your fruit snacks. But yeah, there's a story that came out that there's some AEW talent that won't be competing for Forbidden Door. I know Andrade is one of them. Lucha Brothers, Lucha Bros are a couple more. But the situation is, from what I've read, it's not New Japan or AAA that's being difficult. CMLL is making it difficult because they don't want anybody that competes for AAA competing on something that is affiliated with New Japan because CMLL is the one that has the relationship with New Japan. So that's making it harder for guys that compete on AAA to appear on this event. What doesn't make sense to me, though, is if they're contracted for AEW,
why it should matter.
I guess it's like who gets the say so? Like who at some point one of the companies has to have more of a say so, I would think, especially since Andrade and Lucha Bros compete more on AEW than they do anywhere else, at least from what I've seen.
I think the conversations would probably break down with the fact that they're allowed to work for other companies. If it's going to damage their relationship with that other company, from my understanding, Tony Khan's the kind of guy that would understand that and would not want to jeopardize those people making money. I mean, we've had guests on the show who are AEW talent, and the common thing that they've said is Tony wants us to make the most money that we can make.
Right.
So I don't think he would want to jeopardize them. And even though they're all extremely talented, I think they can have a successful Forbidden Door pay-per-view without them. I mean, let's be real, like Andrade, like what feud were you going to put him in for Forbidden Door if, they kind of teased him potentially winning that Battle Royal with him being the Joker or whatever, which was a day or two late. I would have done that at Double or Nothing and got rid of 4 of the other matches that didn't need to happen, but
it is what it is.
Regardless, he was kind of teased in that. The Lucha Bros are, just had that match with the Young Bucks and whatnot. So, I think they would be all right without them. I mean, you have a loaded roster to begin with. Use anybody else, and it really isn't the end of the world.
You're going to have a lot of upper card guys from both companies that just won't be used just because. I mean, I suspect here's the thing. I suspect that this will be a very match-heavy card. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of vignettes or anything like that because you can't really – you can push storylines, but only within your own company, within your own brand. I don't think we'll see a whole lot of that. So I do think bare minimum, I think we'll see 13 matches, if not even more than that. But even despite that, you're going to have guys on both companies that, I mean, Scorpio Sky, he's your TNT champion. He probably, I wouldn't consider him upper card, but like he's obviously one of their main focuses because he's their TNT champion. I highly doubt we'll see him on this card.
Now, do we think this card or this pay-per-view is going to be a repeat thing going forward, or do we think this is a one-time off type thing?
I think we'll see it again, but I don't think we'll see it more than once a year.
So once a year, they do this. I feel like this year is going to be getting the cliche dream matches that we've heard about for the past 5 years out of the way. So I feel like you're going to get your Young Bucks match against said dream opponent here. You're going to get your Adam Hangman Page match, your John Moxley, you're going to get all those cliche, we got to see this dream match out of the way type stuff outside of Kenny Omega because obviously, he's not been back yet. Unless he makes his triumphant return at the pay-per-view, I don't see that happening.
I have a theory on that. I'll share in just a second, but
this time around. So I think you're going to see a lot of those get out of the way, and then maybe if they decide to do this pay-per-view again next year, that's when we'll actually start seeing more freedom in the matches that take place. I feel like there's too much. There's good hype on this, which is good, but there's so much hype that if they don't deliver the matches that people actually want to see this time around, they may not actually get the buys and the things that they're looking for. Especially, you just lost CM Punk to the dumbest injury I think I've ever heard. He broke his foot jumping the guardrail, so that tells you everything you need to know.
Before the match.
Like, why do that? Anyways. You lost Punk. From what I'm reading, Bryan Danielson's a little beat up. I think he's going to push through, but
there are a lot of guys from a bunch of companies that are injured right now.
We're seeing a lot. It's a very injury-heavy season right now, and I think it's because the workload's been put on some of these guys, though. You're seeing these guys work other companies. If you're not WWE, you're seeing these guys work other companies. They're working all these house shows. They're doing all this stuff. Your body's only going to last so long. This is why I understand WWE's stance on things is that they already run a decent schedule as it is. Why would I let you go and wrestle all these other things too? AEW, a lot of these guys are on their weekly programming. Why would you allow them and risk them getting hurt at this event or that event? So, literally, we're going to talk about later on. Always Ready was literally named after Matt Cardona, and he couldn't even compete in it. So Yeah, I think this time around we're gonna have to see the dream matches that have been discussed for so long at this first one.
Let's transition a little bit. Unfortunately, cliche aside, Jeff Hardy's fallen off the wagon again. At this point, I don't know what would be. Give me your opinion. You guys give me your opinion. What do you think would be best for Jeff Hardy as it relates to him getting to where this isn't a problem anymore? Like, are we like jail time? He outright refused rehab, at least on 2 occasions that I can recall. One being, before he left before his falling out and leaving WWE, which, by the way, WWE doesn't look so bad now with their side of what happened.
So here's when you've experienced the amount of pain, and I'm talking physical pain. I know people who have done strenuous jobs and it's done some strenuous things to their body, or they had massive injuries that the pain just doesn't go away. The guy is jumping off ladders and landing on steel steps and all this stuff still to this day. Literally in the past, month and a half he's been in AEW, I think I've seen him do more damage to his body in the past month and a half than I've probably seen him do in the past 2 years. I get that he's a risk taker. I get that that's part of his character, so it's kind of hard for him not to do those spots because that's what everyone expects him to do. But this is what I've been saying, not just about him, but about a lot of these guys who are up there in age, especially the guys who have already put the wear and the tear on their bodies. Why is Jeff Hardy doing a spot where he's landing on his bare back on steel steps from a 20-foot drop? Right. Why is Jeff Hardy jumping off of a ladder 30 feet in the air into some tables onto a cement floor? Why do those spots? You have nothing left to prove. You want to go in AEW, you want to uplift the other talent, you want to continue to collect a paycheck, do you want to win the tag titles one more time with your brother before you guys eventually call it quits in the ring? I think all that's great, and I think it's all possible.
And it would all sorry, go ahead. I think you're going to say what I was going to say.
It would all be fine. At the end of the day, it would all be good. People would still like it. It would still get over. Everything's great with it. And you don't have to risk not being able to walk the next day. You don't have to risk feeling like you got to find another avenue to get rid of the pain or to at least deal with and whatever with the pain. And so I think a lot of it has to do with that, especially look at the where he's relapsed. Month and a half in, he's done a lot of damage to his body. But wasn't it a week or two ago where he couldn't even compete because he had hurt himself
on the pay-per-view?
On the pay-per-view, he hurt it on the pay-per-view,
and then
the next day he was booked for a 10-man tag match. Couldn't even fight in the 10-man tag match because of the damage that he's done to his body. And obviously that wasn't kayfabe or anything because they had been building the 6-man tag or the 10-man tag match and had to switch on a dime on both teams because people got hurt and were struggling.
Yeah, Adam Cole's injured too. So
whatever had happened. So I think that's the issue. And so obviously I could tell you what I think is best for him, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. For me, stop wrestling. At the end of the day, stop wrestling. If they want to retire, I would speed up this storyline of them winning the AEW tag titles, or if it's going to be the ROH titles again, I think it's going to be AEW. But having them win the AEW tag titles, let them win it. Let them have a short, brief transitional championship type run, maybe from one pay-per-view to the next, so like a 3-month, 4-month stand, and then drop them. And then from there, Matt, if you still want to have a career, be a manager. You were doing a good job at that. Don't do the big money, Matt, stuff. Just be a manager. Be a backstage talent scout, whatever. Do that stuff. Jeff, if you want that kind of job too, you do it as well. But as far as in-ring stuff, I would be done. Matt's looked rough in the ring for a while now. Jeff is not the same Jeff Hardy that we've once known. And if all he can do to stay relevant is to continue damaging his body and putting himself in a predicament to have to go to other avenues to deal with the pain and the stuff that's going on with his body, it's not worth it. You have a family. You have people that love you, that are counting on you. And we all know they're going to make money at Comic-Con. And,
oh, yeah.
You're still going to have your payday. And he could go do music. He's selling out, these bar and grill joints, for people to come see him sing and play.
I mean, and he's charging $200-$300 a pop for like the VIP stuff. And I think they cut it off after X amount. But, right. I mean, do the math on that. Let's just say, let's say I'll meet in the middle, $250 for a VIP per person. Let's just say they allow
200 people.
I was gonna be way conservative. I was gonna say 50.
Okay, go 50.
That's $12,500 per show. Per show.
On top of what he made for the GA tickets.
Yeah.
And he was doing autograph signings too, and there was like so many items that you could do within the signing, and if you wanted more, you could pay to have more signed or something like that. That's what I'm saying. Like, he'll make his money still, plus he's still collecting checks from WWE. He's still collecting, there's royalty checks that are coming in from all the companies he's worked for all these years. So
all that to say, he doesn't have to worry about money.
I would be done.
So I agree with you. I want a couple talking points. So number one, alluding to what you were saying, you don't have to take all these risks in these, do all these spots necessarily only because Tony Khan is, we've talked about this before. The only way it makes sense for them to put the Hardys together in AEW is solely to win the tag titles. I'm convinced they would have won the titles tomorrow, which, by the way, Dynamite is in St. Louis tomorrow. Unfortunately, neither of us are going, but I'm convinced the title change would have been there during the ladder match. Maybe to help make good on, them taking Full Gear away from City of St. Louis. City of St. Louis kind of gets screwed over again with not having this match. I'm sure AEW will somehow make it up to the City of St. Louis. That's neither here nor there. Tony Khan will still put the tag belts on you if you're the Hardys, despite what you do in the ring.
Right.
No matter if you take the high spots or not, you can do your swanton off the top, but you don't need to be going through chairs. You don't need to be going through tables. You don't need to be bouncing off the ring steps. It's not necessary.
Chris Jericho is actually a good representation of that. And I would even say Christian during the Impact stuff with, Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
These guys, they adapted their game because they know I have injuries and I have longevity stuff that's been done to my body. Chris Jericho hardly ever does the lion salt anymore, every once in a while. That's what I'm saying. I'm not against Jeff Hardy doing a spot here and there, but pace your body.
Matt himself has gotten concussed during the Sammy whatever that gimmick
wasn't that Double or
match
Nothing last year?
It was last year, yeah.
Or All In, All Out. I can't remember which one it was. I thought it was Double or Nothing last year, but either way, that's what I'm saying is like I'm not opposed to a spot here or there, but it's more the amount of spots that you're taking that is concerning. I mean, every week Jeff Hardy's taking a chair spot, a table spot, a ladder spot, like
literally every week.
Dude, like pace your body, especially now. I get something like the Darby Allin. I get like you want to be that character and you're young enough that you think your body can handle it. But I think I saw a documentary where even Darby Allin's body's already like frail and
well, yeah, I'm
struggling
sure
and stuff. And I'm like, dude, you're not even near the age that these guys are, and you've already created so many issues in your body. And so my message goes out to a lot of the older wrestlers, especially in AEW, because it seems like the trend is we got to do crazy things to get over.
I'm just curious, how old, before I look it up, how old do you think Darby is?
At most in his early 30s.
I'd say he's 27, 28.
I would think around my age or maybe a year or two older.
Okay, he's 29.
Okay, so he's a year older than me. So, he still technically should have, based off of the the average career that we've seen most wrestlers go, he should still have another 10, maybe 15 years left in his career. But is that going to be actually ideal if he keeps doing what he's doing? I mean, Jeff Hardy, that's my concern, is like, man, like you are doing him, Sting, like you, these older guys, you guys are doing things to your body that is unnecessary because you've made your money already. You've made your name. People know who you are. This is why, like, when WWE brings back those older guys, they do their cliche 5-10 move things that are big, and it still gets over. It still sells the tickets. It still puts people there. They're making the most money they've ever made. I get that it's not the wrestling product that wrestling fans may want, and AEW is trying to do that. So here's my advice to AEW. Either one, don't sign those guys and keep putting them in prominent roles because their bodies are not going to last, and then you're going to be looking to fill that hole later on, and no one's going to be able to fill that hole like that guy did. Number two, if you're not going to stop hiring them and utilizing those guys, change how you use them. Jeff Hardy and Matt could literally make their money off of doing the Matt gets on his knees and Jeff does that, running, sidekick thing into the turnbuckle. They do the twist of fate into the swanton bomb,
even do one of those whisper in the winds every once
in the wind
every once in a while. Like
all that stuff is great. No need for chairs and ladders and table spots and
your
all
TLC
that
days are over.
Even this ladder match, I'm okay with it because look at how they did it. It's a triple threat match. Jeff does not need to do all the spots. He could maybe take some of the spots, but he does not need to be the one jumping off the ladder 20 feet in the air out into the arena because that's what Jeff Hardy's always done.
Literally half the guys in that match, the Bucks and Jungle Boy, could do your spots.
Let Jungle Boy's the youngest one. He's capable of doing them. Let him do that spot. Let the Bucks whose bodies are in better shape to do that stuff, carry the match. You guys still win the belts if that was the plan.
Right.
I don't know. That would be my thought though, is that you guys got to stop putting this man in a position to do more damage to his body because it's clear he keeps turning to that stuff because it's the only thing he knows that works.
Yeah. Back to my talking points though. I agree with you that he just needs to be done. Like they're just you've had your career. There's no need to continue, even if he toned it down some, which I know has kind of been the basis of our conversation in the last few minutes. Even if he tones it down, even still taking bumps does not feel good. My fear is if he continued to just take bumps like normal, this would still be an issue. I honestly think. I'm not an advocate, I guess, no pun intended. This is not a Paul Heyman reference. I'm not an advocate of, putting someone in jail just because they did something wrong or did something illegal. Yes, there needs to be justice in a lot of instances, but not all. However, in this instance, I think it well justifies itself. I think he needs to, again, cliche aside, I think he needs to do the time. He's had multiple chances. He's had opportunity upon opportunity upon opportunity given to him to correct this issue, and he's not. I know a lot of people alluded in the chat to the Sunny Tammy Sitch stuff that's been going on with her. It's the exact same thing. He could, he could get into an accident and hurt or, God forbid, kill somebody.
Right.
Not to mention, this is a felony DUI. This is not just there's no such thing as a standard DUI, don't get me wrong, but it's a felony DUI. So he blew 4 times over the legal limit, I believe, and this was his 3rd DUI. So that carries a lot more consequences, and I feel that this time around it needs to be jail time. Do I think he needs to? I don't know. I mean, I think there should be some kind of probationary thing where it's, they kind of did the same, the thing with Sammy Guevara, the probationary, whatever he went through. But part of that needs to be you are required to go to rehab for X amount of weeks or X amount of months. If you don't, you're not allowed back in AEW. If you do, great. But in my opinion, we will not be bringing you back in any kind of wrestling capacity.
And actually, I was reading through some of the comments, and Jay Stoney said something here that I really agree with, is that the Hardys are not going to get more over.
Right.
They're already over. So there's no need to do all those spots to try to get them more over. And the fans are going to pop for the spot. It wasn't that Jeff Hardy did that spot. It's that the spot happened. So if someone else needs to take that spot, or if that's the kind of promotion you want to run, that's where things get. You're thinking that you're doing Jeff Hardy a favor when you're really doing him a disservice to his body. Unfortunately, I have to agree that I think at this point you got to give him some kind of more extreme punishment.
We're beyond a slap on the wrist at this point.
As far as the law goes, because it's a theme now. You have a proven track record over 10 years.
Longer than that, I think.
But the 3 DUIs, there's been 3 at least in the past 10 years, I think. You refuse rehab. The best thing for him, honestly, if you want to go from AEW standpoint, is let him go. If WWE brings it back, it's to go into the Hall of Fame, and that's it. He might do a segment or two on WWE, but he would be the most protected in WWE out of all the companies, I feel like, because there's not any freedom. Vince McMahon decides what you get to do and don't do. Mm-hmm. So I could see him eventually going back there, retiring, being done, whatever. But the best thing for him is AEW to let him go, because the reality is, outside of some house promotion, a lot of these other companies, that would also include ROH, a lot of these other companies aren't gonna mess with him either, because they're gonna see, oh, okay, well, you messed up with Impact, you messed up with WWE, now you've messed up in AEW, so why should I take a chance on you too? Especially, you just mentioned it, St. Louis, we already had Full Gear taken away from us once. Now the Road Rager card looks insane, especially with that triple threat tag match on it. You were the headlining match for a big card for them, and now you're letting that company down. That's the other thing you got to look at here too from AEW's side is, I can't count on you if you're going to go and make these dumb decisions and make these dumb mistakes. You could actually say the same thing about the Usos right now in WWE. If you guys can't handle yourselves and stay out of trouble, how can I make you a part of this bloodline big thing? And I think that's been conversations that have happened backstage, is like, if we can't count on you. If this is going to be the stuff, the dumb decisions that you make, we can't count on you. We can't make you part of this storyline. We can't do these things. And so AEW is going to have to shift on a dime tomorrow night. I'm interested to see what they do, because I still think they're going to have a triple threat ladder match. I just think the Hardys are going to be taken out of it and replaced.
Or they might just have it be a standard
2-on-2 ladder match, whatever.
The
Hardys are out of it. I don't see how, unless you're going to get another partner, which that actually transitions well into kind of a side topic. So they're supposed to be competing on AAA's pay-per-view this upcoming weekend. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. What I read is that they're going to try to find Matt Hardy a partner. They want to keep Matt Hardy on the event. And I meant to pull this up earlier as far as what the card looks like. It'd take me a minute to pull it up. I forgot who they're wrestling, but basically AAA officials have said they want Matt Hardy to still be on the card and simply just find him a new partner. It makes me wonder if if maybe they'll keep Matt in the match and just find him a different partner. The only intriguing thing that would be for me is if they could find a way to make it make sense for Christian to be his partner. Because you have the longevity of the ladder match between them and their feuds throughout the year. There's a friendship there, and he's actually Jungle Boy and Lucha, whatever his name is, Luchasaurus, his manager right now. You could actually have him get in the match and compete and make it a very competitive match. There's a lot of things to play out there. I don't know if there's really anybody else in AEW right now that to me just is, no, that makes sense. Like that should be Matt Hardy's tag partner. Because for me, if you put anybody who's like young and has a lot of things in the moveset right now with Matt Hardy, they don't mesh. Matt Hardy's, in my opinion, is a very limited wrestler right now. So you would need someone who could kind of deal with some of, kind of wrestle at that same pace that he is.
Okay, so it's their Triple Mania 30 event, which is broken up into 3 different nights throughout the year, because they've got a. So they had one in April. There's having one this weekend, and then they have another one in Mexico City in October. Which, by the way, I did not know about this. I want to throw this out there. The one on October 15th, it's a fatal 4-way for the AAA Tag Team Championship. As of right now, it's supposed to be FTR against the Hardys, against the Bucks, against the Andrade Family Office, which is Andrade, but also Dr. Wagner Jr., who I didn't know was a part of the Andrade Family Office or whatever. But anyway, I just saw that. I wanted to throw that out there. That sounds like a really cool match. But obviously, shouldn't say obviously. It's a little more unlikely that would happen. But back to the one that's this weekend. It's Los Hermanos Lee. So Dragon Lee and Dralistico, if I'm pronouncing that right, against the Hardys. But Jeff's not going to be on there. From what I read, they want to replace Jeff and give Matt another partner. I just don't know, at least for the match tomorrow. I don't see them replacing Jeff with somebody unless it's only to shove it in Jeff's face, as far as give Matt a partner and actually have them win the belts, and then kind of as a screw you kind of thing to Jeff by saying, this could have been you. This could have been, if you didn't screw up, you could be champions right now. So I don't know. I don't know at this point, as far as
this is another one of those things where AEW needs to prove here that they're able to shift on a dime.
Yeah,
this has been one of my number one complaints about them specifically, is that they do not do a very good job at shifting on a dime, even when things are out of their control. So I'm not blaming them that, the Jeff Hardy stuff's not their fault, and they couldn't have predicted that. Well, maybe you could have, but there's a track record there. But
have a backup plan in place ahead of time.
They could not have planned for him to do it 2 days before the event.
Yeah.
So maybe they thought that they were seeing good progress and stuff with him. So if it was me, I would pull Matt Hardy out of the match.
I would too.
I would pull Matt out of the match. I would replace. You have enough tag teams there. I would replace them. Honestly, if you're wanting a spot guy, I would put Keith Lee and Swerve back into that title picture, because Swerve will do those spots off the ladder.
So it's weird. It's like you're in my head. Here's what I would do. I would make this even bigger than what it was originally scheduled to be. So replace the Hardys with not one but 2 teams. One in my head was Lee and Swerve. The other one, put FTR in the match. Here's my logic.
Got the pop.
Here's my logic. You put FTR in the match, have them win the titles. So then they're carrying 3 championships. Have them go into this match at full gear, Forbidden Door, going up against who are now the new IWGP World Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, Jeff Cobb and
United Empire.
Yeah, Great O'Khan.
Right.
I was wanting to say Khan, but then that would have gotten confused with Tony. Have them go into that match with those 2. You have 4 tag team championships that could all be on the line in that match. Put all 4 on, all of them up for grabs in the match. That's just how I would book it. That's just me.
Yeah, and even if they didn't win, that would make for a good spot, good television though, because people are invested in them. The other one I could just see, just because he just signed, you could put Andrade and Rush or Roosh in the match just to kind of get him some television time. But Lucha Bros are always an option to throw in there.
You have a lot of tag teams you could throw in the match.
So if you're wanting the spots, is my point, is that you have people on the roster in good tag teams that are able to do spots.
It's definitely a great opportunity to showcase your tag team division, which arguably is the strongest of any pro wrestling company out there.
Easily. So,
what else can we talk about? I mean, we don't have to camp on this for too long, but I saw this post prior to Jeffrey's comment. Jay Briscoe is now a father, so congrats to him him and his wife.
Awesome.
I guess the post that I read is that he came. I guess Jeffrey copied and pasted his Twitter post, but he came a month and a half early, but getting stronger every day. So that's great news for them. Happy for their family. Just wanted to bring that up to kind of pivot off an unfortunate situation with a happier story. So congrats to them. I'd really love to see the Briscoes on Ring of Honor when that gets kicked off, whenever that might be. I mean,
yeah, I'm still kind of confused by like what they're doing there too. Like as far as the Ring of Honor stuff goes, like
supposedly they have a TV deal in place or are very close to it. Last that I read, but I've not really heard much about it for a couple weeks.
So that just makes me nervous because like just having a TV deal to me is not enough. Like they should be announcing like who's your roster for ROH, who's your roster for I do think that those two things need separate lines. Doesn't mean that you can't. Excuse me. It doesn't mean that you can't utilize the guys on both promotions. But I do think there needs to be a more consistent roster for ROH and a more consistent roster for AEW, and not just having this huge, massive roster where Bryan Danielson's now working ROH, AEW. He's on Dark sometimes. He's on, I mean, like it needs to be so clear cut that like these guys are usually on this programming. These guys here. Then if you can bring in the nice little surprise here and there.
Yeah.
But
I mean, there's a lot of routes you can go for this Forbidden Door pay-per-view, not just with the Briscoes, but I mean for a number of different talent. I say that because the Briscoes are Impact Tag Team Champions at the moment,
right?
But they're also possibly going to be with Ring of Honor. I mean they just lost the Ring of Honor tag belts to FTR, so they could be brought in for that. But then that opens the door further or wider, so to speak, for do we see anybody from Impact on Forbidden Door? Do we see? There's a number of different rabbit trails you can go down for this pay-per-view. So I'm excited about the pay-per-view itself. Again, I'm going to throw this up, but we are having our Forbidden Door watch party June 26th, Sunday, June 26th. The event goes live at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. We will be going live an hour prior to that at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. This is the second time we've mentioned it on the podcast this morning, but I forgot to mention earlier, this will be Twitch only. So we will be broadcasting the event with no sound. We'll probably have like a scrolling watermark going across the screen as well. But we will be broadcasting it live, and I'm excited about it.
So let's transition here. And we've had a few people mention some of the different pay-per-views and different things that have gone down. The one that we can start with, because there wasn't a whole lot that I know about the pay-per-view, but I know some titles changes. The NWA pay-per-view that just took place, Always Ready. Again, it's funny to me that they planned this whole pay-per-view, rightfully so. Matt Cardona has been killing it, but they planned this pay-per-view, and then he can't even wrestle at the pay-per-view that was planned for him. Which makes me wonder, like, was he even going to retain at this pay-per-view? Like, was this pay-per-view set up to have him retain or whatnot? But I believe that Fatal 4-Way match was Trevor Murdoch.
You had Murdoch, Aldis, Sam Shaw,
and Latimer, right?
Latimer, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which Sam Shaw being in it was a nice little added thing, because I was like, oh, I didn't think I forget his 90-day compete clause
has long been over.
I it feels like he just got released still, so it was refreshing to see him on television or on a pay-per-view, But let's talk about that for a second, because I think Trevor Murdoch winning the belt for a second time was an interesting.
I don't like it.
Decision.
Yeah, I think that I inevitably think that Matt Cardona was actually going to retain on this pay-per-view. I think they only put it back on Trevor because he's going to drop it back to Cardona once he gets healed up. I think the end goal for NWA was to put the 10 pounds of gold, so to speak, on Cardona and keep it on him for a while to help elevate NWA as a brand.
Which, agreed. I mean, obviously, I felt like it was already being elevated under Aldis.
I agree.
So, you know, I if it were me, I would have put it back on Aldis. Maybe Latimer, just because you could say we're building up a star. There's a storyline there between him and Aldis. There's always a storyline with Cardona, no matter who wins.
I think it does make for more intriguing storylines if you put it on Latimer. That's why I was going to say I think they got it wrong here. I would have put it on Latimer, have him carry it for a while, because like you said, there's a bunch of different storylines that they could go down to keep the title picture interesting until Cardona is ready to come back. And then if you want to, put it back on Cardona.
Right, and that's where I thought it was interesting is I get what you're saying, and the safest booking is put it on Trevor Murdoch because he can always lose it, which is fine. But also you can do a storyline with Latimer. You could have him get the title cost him the title. Have Nick Aldis turn on him, and their friendship and all this stuff. And there's so many things that they could do. And so I just thought that was an interesting decision to put it back on Trevor Murdoch. Kudos to him. I mean, two-time NWA champ. That's taking nothing away from him.
Right.
But I just thought the booking was weird. We also saw, I'm trying to remember the card off the top of my head.
So Camille retained over Kylan King,
Yep.
which you had Bully Ray on commentary. They both trained with him coming up through wrestling. So, yeah, that match, you had Aaron Stevens / Damian Sandow allegedly having his retirement match against Trevor Murdoch. Losing that match, he gave a speech that just disclaimer, I've not seen a lot of this, so
right.
I'm just going off of what I've read and results and et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I know you had their national championship and their TV championships defended. I think both retained in those matches.
The women tag titles changed.
Those changed. Yeah, I'm just going off the top of my head. I guess I could pull up the card and could go through it real quick. Let's see. So you had a couple pre-show matches, which I won't get into those, but Trevor Murdoch defeated Aaron Stevens. Pretty empowered. So Ella Envy and Kenzie Page won the NWA World Women's Tag Team Championship. Homicide defeated, actually he'd had two matches, retained the NWA Junior Heavyweight Championship in both matches. Jax Dane retained the National Heavyweight Championship. Tom Latimer defeated Scion. Tyrus retained the NWA World Television Championship. Oh, this was the match I was forgetting. So the Commonwealth Connection, Doug Williams and Harry Smith, formerly known as, he's in, what was he in WWE? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Name, what was the name again?
Harry Smith, Davey Boy Smith's son. Why am I blanking on that?
Wasn't it just something Junior? Wasn't it just Davey?
D.H. Smith. So let's see. Ring names: British Bulldog Jr., Bulldog Hart, Davey Boy Smith Jr., David Hart Smith. I think it was D.H. Smith is what he was named. Was his WWE name.
I thought it was just Davey Boy Smith Jr.
In WWE?
Because he wrestled with Tyson Kidd. They were like a tag team.
I don't know. Nonetheless. But yeah. So they won the NWA World Tag Team Championships, defeating La Rebellion. So, and then the two title matches that we mentioned. So I've not seen I could be wrong. It could be junior. I don't know. Regardless.
So we saw that. We saw New Japan had their Dominion card.
Mm-hmm. There's actually a number of different title changes on that card. So we mentioned United Empire winning the World Tag Team Championships.
This one's more intriguing because of Forbidden Door. Like, are they setting up matches to have titles involved because of Forbidden Door? And so that's what I'm looking at this card. Like, what did you do here to try to set some things up?
So we had Carl Anderson winning the Never Openweight Championship.
I thought that was an interesting choice.
Will Ospreay defeated Sonata to win the vacant IWGP United States Championship. However, they didn't have possession of the belt.
Right.
It's, I mean, if you're New Japan, how do you drop the ball on that? I mean, I guess Juice Robinson like has physical possession of the belt. Like, is that part of the storyline? Is that a shoot, so to speak? Like, I don't know, but it's like, it's weird that you have a title match, but you don't have the physical belt. So anyway, and then Jay White defeated Okada to win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. That I find most intriguing.
Very intriguing.
Because Jay White has been on AEW 2 or 3 times, and so it's
and has been heavily teased for Forbidden Door. I mean, heavily teased.
It kind of makes me wonder, not from Jay White's side, but also from Okada's side, because I wonder if it's one of those situations where, okay, Okada is not champion, so we won't see him on Forbidden Door. Like, if that's the fans' mindset, but then maybe we'll see a swerve and still, no pun intended, we'll see a what's another word for swerve? A surprise or whatever. And
switch up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe we will see Okada on the card. Who knows?
So right now, it's the main match that we know of is going to be Moxley versus Tanahashi, right, for the interim AEW championship or whatever. But I feel like you almost have to have Okada on this card.
I wonder if there's stuff going on behind the scenes to where they put the belt on White because they know he can be there. Maybe Okada is like more up in the air as far as if he can't be there, and they've just got it open-ended to where, you know, if Okada's available, then we'll throw him in the match for the IWGP Championship, which here's my logic. I think at this point we'll see a triple threat for the IWGP Championship. It'll be Adam Cole, Hangman Page, and Jay White. And then if Okada is able to make the trip for, you know, if right now they're uncertain about it, but he's able to or can or whatever, then they'll just make it a fatal 4-way.
That or just make a non-title kind of dream match, if you will.
Yeah.
Between him and name anybody on that roster. Like, there are so many names on that roster. You could do Swerve. I mean, Swerve would put on a great match with just about any of them.
Well, I mean, I think the common fan, though, is going to want to see like the marquee match, Okada versus, somebody that's
Bryan Danielson.
Someone that's got the name Danielson, Jericho
would be open. Right now. Yeah. Danielson doesn't have anything going on, and they're not going to really do anything with Blackpool Combat Club or whatever because Moxley's in, that other match. So
I think the big match that's been teased as it relates to Bryan Danielson is him against Zack Sabre Jr. But Zack Sabre Jr. wrestles for more than just New Japan. That doesn't preclude him from being on the event, but it's like, again...
This is where the waters get shaky, though.
Again, you go down different rabbit holes, and there's just a lot to unpack depending on which rabbit hole you go down, so to speak.
I do, just because we're kind of talking about belts and whatnot, I do actually want to get your opinion...
Go for it.
...on this new AEW belt that has been since revealed to us, and kind of how they're doing it and whatnot.
Which actually was a big surprise. I mean, this came out of nowhere.
Your thoughts, I have my own, but I'd like to hear your thoughts first on how it fits, how they're doing it, your thoughts on how it looks, the whole nine. Like, just break it down for me from your side.
So the physical belt itself, I actually really like. I think it's really cool. As far as the title, the championship, whatever itself, I mean, I'm okay with it, but they need to give it a different name because All Atlantic doesn't really... Like, you think All Atlantic, you think Atlantic Ocean, you think countries that are in the vicinity of the Atlantic Ocean, but Japan's not anywhere near the Atlantic Ocean. You're going Pacific. You need to rename. Like, I'm okay with this particular championship, but call it like the AEW International Championship or something that's. I mean, All Atlantic doesn't make sense to me. I mean, if
now they're trying to pay like kin to an older title, like a retro title from another company at one point in time, right?
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, so the physical belt itself looks very much like the Mid-South North American Championship as does their regular AEW Championship. But as far as the name, I don't know what it might be being compared to or alluded to. My thought was whenever I first heard the name, because I wasn't watching the episode whenever I saw it pop across my Twitter feed, I heard AW All Atlantic, and I'm just like, oh, that kind of sounds like, back in the days they had the NWA Mid-Atlantic Championship, so I thought maybe it's kind of a throwback to that because they're AEW's very respectful and tasteful when it comes to the history of wrestling and homages to different things that are in the past of wrestling, so 70s, 80s, etc. They had the Mid-Atlantic Championship, so I thought maybe it was meant to be like another mid-card championship. But then I started looking into it. It's like, oh, this is like international stuff, and so I was like, All Atlantic doesn't make sense because, again, for reasons I just said, like you're having guys from Japan that doesn't make sense. Call it the AEW International Championship. That's really the only way that this would jive, I guess.
So ultimately, though, you're kind of on the mindset of you're cool with it.
I mean, I'm okay with the championship in itself. I mean, it's if they want to, it's fine. I would if they wanted another championship. Obviously they're waiting on the Trios Championship until Kenny comes back. If Kenny were wrestling right now, I'm fully convinced that this would have been the debut of the Trios Championship, or we would have already had it. But I feel like they needed something to appease isn't the right word, but give AEW's mid-card, which is very, very heavy in talent, give them something to, quote-unquote, give them something to do or give them something to shoot for. So I guess that kind of fits that, but just the All-Atlantic name doesn't make sense.
So here's where I'm at on it. I would agree with you that I think the trios belts are needed. I think this belt is pointless. To me, it makes me feel like the TNT title's about to get lost in the sauce or maybe even retired, especially if they're not going to be on TNT going forward at some point. So, I think it's their contingency plan in a sense of we might have to let go of that TNT title, name or whatever, at some point. But I just think the whole thing's kind of silly. It almost feels, not that you have to, but they kind of did this like international tournament, right? Where like there's somebody represented by every country, if you will, or nation except America. Like you had Ethan Page from Canada in it. You had Miro from Russia in it. You have a New Japan match that had yet to be determined who was going to be in the match. You had Pac and Buddy Matthews in it. Like you had all these people, but there was no American representation in the match. And so I'm kind of like, so is this belt like exclusive? Like Americans can't challenge for it, or like that's the part that kind of rubbed me wrong. I think was that you did this tournament where there was like representation. Your company's based in America, and yet you had no American representation. Even they didn't have to win it. I'm just saying like they weren't even in like the tournament period. And I thought that was an interesting thing to do. I don't like the name of it. The belt itself looks decent, but I feel like it's another belt that just is going to get lost. Like if you want your mid card to be active, actually use your TNT title to do that. Have more than one challenger at a time. Have actual storylines built in place and not necessarily feel like you have to do one-on-one storylines all the time. Why can't we have a storyline where there's 4 or 5 guys involved at once and, everyone's kind of trying to get their claim at the title and, do different things there. But I feel like this is a way to either get this belt or the TNT title. I feel only if there's room for one of the two. I don't know if there's enough room. I mean, if anything, if you wanted another title without introducing one, use the FTW one you keep having sported around in AEW for the past 2.5 years that only one person really has held outside of Brian Cage. I also think it's weird you still have Adam Cole running around with a belt that doesn't seem like it's ever going to get defended.
See, what it's turning into is the NWA in the mid to late 80s, where you had so many talent carrying a belt. I mean, you had so many titles that were out there. I mean, you had the NWA Championship, the United States Championship, the TV Championship, the National Championship, the World Tag Team Championship, the U.S. Tag Team Championship, the National Tag Team Championship. You had the Six-Man Tag Team Championship, the Central States Championship. Literally, you had like 10 to a dozen or more championships in such a their talent pool was smaller, so it felt like literally everybody had a championship. I get the AEW's talent pool is bigger, but you still only have so much TV time, and not everybody watches Dark. Not everybody watches Elevation. In fact, I'd go as far to say the people that watch. Okay, let's look at it like this. Let's say you have 100% of people that watch AEW Dynamite. Like out of that 100%, I would say probably maybe 75%, that might be being generous, 75% go on to watch Rampage. Then of that 100% that watch, sorry, I'm pulling some Scott Steiner math on you guys. Of that 100% that watch Dynamite, I would say no more than a quarter, 25% watch Elevation or Dark. One of the two. I would say of that 100% that watch Dynamite, I'd say probably 10%, 10 to 15% watch everything every week.
And I agree. And I mean, those numbers are there because you just go look at the ratings of those shows and the viewership of those shows. They're not near close to what Dynamite itself pulls in, which obviously it's in a better spot, more time. It is billed as their biggest show out of the four, you know. But then you also have the ROH thing playing in too. Mm-hmm. You have ROH belts that are being defended and brought onto your show. And so it is feeling like everyone's got a belt. And again, if you're not going to make clear lines between ROH and AEW, and those belts can just kind of be defended when and wherever and however, there's too many belts. So if it were me, you can do the trio belts without Kenny. When he comes back,
agreed.
They could challenge for it as soon as he gets back. Go ahead and introduce him. You have Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish sitting right there at your disposal. I think a killer match would be Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly versus Malachi Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matt. Like, that match would be a killer match. Mm-hmm. You could do a tournament, a trios tournament, have Christian and Jungle Boy and all them in it. You know, like I said, everyone's in a faction these days. You could do this tournament or whatever for it just fine without Kenny and the Bucks, or, you know, however you were going to set it up. And when they come back, I would put it on Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly. And then when Kenny's good, now you can tease the feud between them and have the 6-man tag match between the two teams. So I think that would have been the better unveiling. I feel like this title's unnecessary, and I feel like it's a setup for one of those two mid-card titles now to get lost in the mix somehow. I would have utilized the ROH title, television title that Samoa Joe has on TV a lot more. If you want another mid-card belt being defended on your show, I would have utilized the ROH tag titles a lot more on my show. I would be working with Jonathan Gresham to try to get him involved more with the ROH title on the show. You know, I know he's been on there like once, but, you know, really utilizing ROH and getting the name out there even more too. So when you do have your television deal and these guys are having to carry the show on their own, AEW people want to watch ROH now because of the things that have been built on AEW television. So, but I want to get your thoughts because, one, I know you're you're a belt guy in your own right, but I know we've been talking and teasing, you know, about the trios belts, and so seeing this get unveiled, I was like, oh, this kind of seems like unnecessary almost.
I mean, I can see where you're coming from. I don't see it as unnecessary. And again, the belt itself, I like.
Right.
As far as like the design of it,
Agreed.
The look. But again, I sound like a broken record. Where I go back, what I go back to is just the name doesn't make sense. The All Atlantic just call it the AW International Championship is what you should call it. I mean, obviously, you're not going to call it Intercontinental. You're not going to call it a country-specific championship because then it would even further not make any sense. So, I don't know. That's just where I lie on that. I want to pivot back to the Jeff situation. Matt made a statement on his Twitter. This was 5 minutes ago. I'll just read it straight from there. He says, "It was disheartening to hear the news about my brother yesterday. Recovery isn't a linear process, and I'll continue doing whatever I can to help my brother be healthy. Being healthy and well is the most important thing for Jeff, his wife, his children, and our family at this time." So, to me, that very much sounds like we won't see the Hardys on Dynamite tomorrow. I mean, if Matt is assisting in this process of getting Jeff healthy, whatever that looks like, you wouldn't be on the road.
Well, and here's the other thing about Matt is that, unfortunately, whatever Jeff does affects Matt.
Yeah,
because
100%.
As soon as Matt Hardy goes out on TV, we're tweeting about Jeff Hardy now. We're posting about Jeff Hardy now. There's no way to reference Matt Hardy right now, as fresh as it is on television, without having Jeff Hardy's name brought up, especially when you had them as a tag team on television currently, and we're supposed to be in a ladder match. There's really nothing, unless you're going to head on directly attack the situation on television. There's really no way to bring him out without it having people chant or, whatever could happen. And so I feel like the smartest move, again, is to just not have him on air, replace them in the match, do a quick, unfortunately we can't have the Hardys in the match, and pivot really quick to who's going to be in the match and then never mention it again.
Yeah.
So,
let's talk about our wrestler of the week, and then I want to pivot back to something that Jeremy just posted, because I do have a theory. I wasn't going to share it, but then after seeing his comment, I'll go ahead and share it. But who you got for wrestler of the week?
Well, seeing how we haven't met in a while, I am just going to go back to Cody Rhodes in the Hell in a Cell match. What a guy, because he didn't have to do that. I'm sure WWE would have found a way to shift if, for some reason he felt like he couldn't go in that match. And it was a great match.
It was Meltzer's first 5-star rating given to WWE in 12 years.
It was, which I think is bogus, but
there's
been several 5-star matches in 12 years.
Oh yeah,
put on.
Taker and Shawn Michaels easily should have been, but I mean just for what it's worth.
But this was,
I'm sorry, 11 years.
It was such a classic match. I loved the what is it? The rope, I'm trying to remember what the cowbell.
Oh yeah.
What's
Texas bull rope?
Thank you. I was like, what do they call? Like, I'm blanking on the name of it. I loved that spot in the match. I loved the sell of the pectoral. Obviously it was really. Actually,
probably wasn't selling,
but I love how they played into that, but kept it protected at the same time. So you saw what they were doing, and it was almost to the point where my friends who casually watch wrestling are texting me and asking questions like, "Do you think this is fake? Like, do you think he's actually not hurt? Like, that's all body paint and stuff?" And I was like, "Well, if it was body paint, it would be coming off right now because there's a lot of sweat and a lot of things happening." I was like, "I'm pretty sure it's legitimate."
Yeah.
And he's battling through it. The only thing that kind of threw me was the fact that they gave him the W in the match. I thought if you really wanted to, if he was going to be written off TV and stuff, the smartest thing to do is you don't hurt him by having him lose. He was hurt. So he's already won two matches against Seth. And so I thought him getting the win seemed weird, but I have to give it to Cody Rhodes in that match. He put on one of the best matches I've seen with a I love our chat with a broken freaking pec.
Yeah. So, and I also alluded to this in one of our chats. In hindsight, I actually think they got it right. I think at the time, I would have thought, okay, Seth should win this match. A, because you can't have him lose a third time. B, Cody's injury situation can just further play into the fact that it doesn't hurt him if he loses. I think they actually got it right. I think this further elevates Cody. And I mentioned that, it took like 3 or 4 crossroads, pedigree, sledgehammer, the bull rope situation, factor that in. I don't know if, regardless, all that thrown in, it took all of that to beat Seth, so I don't think it made him look bad either. Right. And it further elevates Cody to eventually get that main card title shot, whatever it's called by the time he gets it, whether it's a Universal Championship, Undisputed Universal Championship, whatever it's called.
They re-separate them again.
Yeah. But what WWE needs to do, sorry, I'll give my wrestler of the week in just a second. What WWE needs to do, they need to have, this is something I heard from Bully Ray on Busted Open, and I totally agree with this. They need to keep Cody featured on WWE TV, but do it like once a month or once every 3 weeks or whatever, just to show his like recovery and his PT and photos or stills of the surgery or whatever, just to keep it fresh on the minds of fans. So when he does come back, it still feels like he didn't lose any momentum, and so but still have it be a surprise. So I'm like,
the recovery time's about 9 months, is what they're saying, right?
So usually 6 to 9 months is the norm, but this is also an injury that Cena came back from in 4 months.
So I'm just thinking, with the timetable as it is right now, we would be looking closer to Rumble.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think he was going to be the Money in the Bank winner. I think that was initially going to be the plans. But I would save him for my big surprise entrant and winner of the Royal Rumble. And honestly, you could probably even do it where he enters as like number 1 or 2 kind of storyline thing with him and have him overcome all those odds.
I mean, listen, even if you have him come in at number 30, because the internet rumors will be running rampant by that point. It'll be expected, or at best heavily rumored, that Cody will be in the Rumble. You'll have so much expectation coming up to that number 30 spot. Whenever the horn goes off, have there be a little bit of a pause before the music plays, and then just go into the adrenaline, like just play his music. Place will go off, and I mean, it'll be a foregone conclusion at that point that he's going to win. But by then, you can do that because the expectation and the buildup will be so much that it'll be like another Daniel Bryan or Kofi Kingston type situation where everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, because I know there are people that are watching us or that watch us regularly that aren't Cody fans, which is fine. For the most part, most people will be behind Cody at that point, especially if they do the Roman side of the title picture correctly, where he just seems like he's unbeatable. Nobody can win the championship. Like, he's got a firm grasp on the title. And
the other thing
you've got your Mania main event.
I really think I actually liked the idea more, though, of him still no one knowing if he was going to be there or not. He comes out as number 1 and makes Seth Rollins like the number 30 entrant, because he'll be fresh, and Cody Rhodes had to fight the whole Rumble and beat the guy that took him out, in a sense.
Yeah.
And then it sets him up to be like, okay, he really could beat Roman at Mania or whatever the case. I don't know how Mania works this next year if Roman's holding both belts, because the rumor is that he's going to fight The Rock. Like, is it going to be The Rock and the WrestleMania winner, or will Roman have to defend the titles both nights? Because they're clearly going to do 2 nights of Mania, probably going forward, because they know they'll make more money off of it, and they see that people are willing to pay for the tickets. So I'm almost curious, like, will he have to fight, Rock night 1, and then, the WrestleMania winner gets to fight the winner.
That's true.
Night 2.
You got to factor in that there are 2 nights of Mania, and you could always have him have 2 matches.
They've done that before, and I'm saying that the rumor is true, like they want to do Rock versus Roman, and you really can't have Rock win the belt. It's just his schedule. If Roman's schedule is about to be busy, The Rock is too busy. And so you almost could have Cody interfere in that match just so he can make sure he gets Roman or whatever. I don't know. But that's where it gets a little foggy for me. But ultimately, I think I like the he defies all odds kind of storyline for him.
Yeah. This is something we did not mention I'll give him an honorable mention just because posted it in the chat. Gunther / Walter is a new Intercontinental Champion. I did watch the match. I was actually really disappointed in it. I don't know, just the flow of the match just seemed off. So I'm only going to give him an honorable mention just because Jeremy brought it up. But my wrestler of the week goes to Jay White.
Yeah, that's a good one.
They had almost an almost 40-minute match for the title. Jay White wins. I have not actually watched a good chunk of the match. I've seen bits and pieces of it. From what I saw, it looked like a good match, and I think Jay White won clean. You guys that are watching can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was a clean finish. So
I think the Gunther decision is the right one. I love Ricochet, so don't get me wrong, but it's clear they had no plan for him.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate part is that they're kind of doing some of the United States title now with Theory and Lashley and trying to build that. But I think this is the right decision, especially if this is going to be the guy that they can be like, okay, now we're going to actually create storylines and utilize this belt the right way. Mm-hmm. I saw someone post on a Facebook thread that they should really let him hold it almost like as long as he did with like the NXT UK belts and stuff. Like have him go on a very lengthy run, but a consistent run with the belt. So he's actually defending it on pay-per-views, actually having viable challengers and things like that. But I like it. It's a good call. Now I just hope, because Ricochet was supposed to be like their number 2 babyface on the show. Mm-hmm. I hope he just doesn't go back into obscurity though, and you don't know where he is. You never hear about him. He's in catering, and put him in the Money in the Bank match. And now I'm curious, if Cody's not in the match, who is the front runner to win the Money in the Bank title? My heart is always going to be for somebody who would probably never get a title shot if that were the case. So I like the Ricochets. I like the Sami Zayn would be in my list right now.
Ali,
obviously he should have won it the year that Brock Lesnar got it. So some of those names are kind of sticking out to me right now. I do think it's interesting to note that Austin Theory is probably going to be in the U.S. title match against Bobby at Money in the Bank, so he's not going to be in it. Neither will Bobby. So I'm kind of like, okay, who are these from? AJ Styles just lost last night. I thought was interesting too to Rollins, unless they do like a last chance, match to get back in. I thought it was interesting that Styles is not going to be in this match. I'm curious if Finn Balor is going to be in the match with the Judgment Day stuff, or if Damian Priest will be in it. And so now they got me intrigued. Now that Cody's out of the picture, because I would have said he was the front runner, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It doesn't matter who else is in the match, kind of thing. But now that he's not, now I'm like, oh, we got to shift. How can we do this to where it's like interesting, intriguing, and all of those different things? So not Otis. Riddle is interesting. Just because I don't see him winning the belt this Friday on SmackDown, and I know he's not going to be allowed to challenge for it. Again, we've seen those stipulations.
Can't challenge for it if Roman's champion.
Right.
So whatever.
That could be another year. But the Riddle thing would be intriguing because the Money in the Bank would negate that technically. So.
Right. I'm going to give you guys some Lord Alfred Hayes real quick.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Just want to take a moment and let you guys know you can check out the Going Broadway podcast. We are live just about every week, almost every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. Obviously, we're live today on a Tuesday. The month of June is kind of wonky, I guess, in large part due to, well, really both of our schedules. I mean, we just got so much going on. You guys, some of you that watch us regularly, there we go, know that Cole is also does travel as a musician, and so he's got a lot of dates in the month of June. I've also had stuff come up on my schedule to where we've had to pivot, have our show on different days. We had planned on having a show last Tuesday?
Last Tuesday.
We were going to do it Tuesday because that's when Camille was free, but then our schedules got messed up, and so I also admittedly didn't feel well last week. I mean, it was just one of those, just felt super fatigued, and whenever Camille canceled, I was just like, you know what? let's just cancel this week. I mean, it's, and I would have had to plan a bunch of stuff and just didn't end up working out. But for the rest of June, just so you guys know, we will not have a live show next week. However, in its place, I will be airing a special watch-along of a pay-per-view that you'll just have to check out and tune in to see what's being aired. But it will be aired only on our Twitch channel. Thursday, the 23rd, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, I will be airing a watch-along of a pay-per-view. Again, you'll just have to tune in, figure out what I'm airing. You guys can chat along with other viewers, with me periodically. I will be working, but I'll also have it kind of in the background, so I'll chime in every so often as time will allow. Maybe Cole will as well.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see.
But then the week after that, the 27th through the 30th, I think we have to do another Tuesday show that week. Is that correct? The 28th. Tuesday's the 28th.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So the week after that, we'll be live again on a Tuesday, the 28th, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. Unless we have a guest on, for the most part, you can count on the 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central being the same. And we'll also try to be on a Tuesday or Thursday, just depending on our schedules, to try to keep it as consistent as possible. So, again, next week, no live show on the 23rd, but we'll be airing at a pay-per-view, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, Thursday the 23rd, Twitch channel only. The week after that, we'll be back live Tuesday, June 28th, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. And, because there will be another 2-week gap in between live shows, we're going to have a lot to talk about. There won't be any shortage of stuff to discuss. I'm going to put this back up one more time. Our Forbidden Door watch-along, Sunday, June 26th, Twitch only. Cole and I will be live. We need to talk to our buddy Austin. Maybe he'll be joining us as well. If Austin does join us, we need to reconfigure our watch-along template, I guess.
Yep.
Because we'll have to have 4 different panels going. Anyway, Sunday, June 26th. The card goes live at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. We will be going live an hour prior to that, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. So join us for that. Like I mentioned, we will be airing the pay-per-view, but A, Twitch channel only. B, there will not be sound. C, we'll have a scrolling watermark going across just to make sure that we're not being dinged for copyright stuff, trademarks, etc. So I'm going to put this back up as well. So we are now on Pro Wrestling Tees. You can check out our shop, prowrestlingtees.com/Going Broadway Podcast. You can order your shirts straight from the website. Order everything from regular T-shirts, soft T-shirts, tank tops, long sleeve shirts, shirts for your kiddos, tall tees, I believe. So if you're on the taller side, you can get yourself a tall tee. V-necks as well for those of you that want to flaunt the chest hair a little bit. Get your V-necks and such. But yeah, again, prowrestlingtees.com/Going Broadway Podcast. You no longer have to talk to us. Our shops or our website's shop has been deactivated. So if you want a shirt, go straight to prowrestlingtees.com/Going Broadway Podcast. I'm updating new SKUs every week. Pro Wrestling Tees has a limit on how many SKUs you can update or upload per week. So that's why not all of them are on there now, but give us about a month and all of them should be up and running or on there. If you do want a shirt that's not on the shop, let me know and we'll get you hooked up with one. We'll figure it out. Anything else you want to add?
I was trying to think, because a lot of our interviews are being rescheduled right now. So I was just trying to think if we had anybody lined up just yet, but I don't think we do.
As of right now, we don't. So Camille, I'm trying to get lined up again. I'm in communication with, that's what I was going to say. Good call. So AWPR is actually talking to me about getting this Athena interview scheduled. It wasn't going to work out for the month of June, so we're looking at July, trying to get some dates figured out. So Athena we will have on at some point. Camille will have on at some point. I know that I had like a 20, 30-minute phone conversation on a Sunday afternoon a few weeks ago with Larry Zbyszko. Called me out of the blue in response to just an email I sent him. He said he was interested in doing it, but I've called him back a couple times. he hasn't called me back yet. So we'll see what happens with that. Couple other feelers we put out. I know you talked to a lot of people at Warrior Wrestling that seemed interested in doing it. So we will at some point be back to having guests on, hopefully at least once a month. And I'm excited about it, but it's just one of those wait and see type seasons, I guess.
Right.
So I want to go back to Jeremy's comment earlier about the TNT title / All Atlantic title. This is an interesting situation because it makes you wonder if they're introducing the All Atlantic title to eventually maybe replace the TNT title if AEW has to change networks, given the Warner Media recent merger in that situation.
Which was my thought that I had mentioned earlier. It's just, it seems like they might be getting away from the TNT network here soon. If that's up in the air, you'd have to get rid of that title too. We even said that if they switched completely over to TBS. So
I don't think they'd ever switch over just to TBS because that's also a Turner station.
Right.
So it makes me wonder. It's not a bad move, given because stuff might be up in the air on AEW side as well. They might not know. So I'm okay with it if they, if this was only done because the TNT championship and eventually the TBS championship have to be phased out. So I don't think Ethan Page is going to win the tournament, though, because that means right off the jump, Miro would be taking a loss. I don't think that's happening.
Unless he cheats. I don't see how you could have Ethan Page go over Miro.
No. I love Ethan Page. He
Agreed.
I don't see it happening.
It's not a good look for Miro at all to have him lose clean to Ethan Page, at least right now. So I don't see him winning. I see him being a first round loss, but crazier things have happened.
We shall see. Tell you what, guys.
Just when they think they got the answers, I change the questions.
We'll do 10 or 15 minutes of some Q&A, and then we'll wrap up the show. I know we had some submitted ahead of time that I will get to, and then you guys can ask any questions that you would like.
I have no idea who this guy is. I also don't rent, so sorry. The comment caught me off guard.
Anyway,
I thought it was going to be a question. And
anyway, so questions that were submitted ahead of time. Actually, we might have covered all these. Okay, so David Tilley asked prior to Forbidden Door, could you give us, basically he says, could you do a New Japan primer for those of us who are not familiar with it? So basically that means like, could we give you like a quick summarization, if that's a word, of the current New Japan landscape? We might do that on, I'll tell you what, we wouldn't have time to do that before the pay-per-view because we won't have a show next week. Okay, well, we kind of highlighted the championship. We kind of already gave you a primer, so to speak, of the current champions and things like that. But I did say that from a storyline perspective, I don't watch it enough to give enough perspective on storylines other than what's going on with them in AEW right now. So as far as current champions, I know, again, Jay White just won the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. You've got Ospreay as United States champion. Carl Anderson just won the Never Openweight Championship. You've got United Empire. So Jeff Cobb and Great O'Khan just won the Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. Those are kind of the big notable stories, I guess. But I think that's really all that we would ever see as it relates to the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. So let's see. Like I said, guys, send us some questions and we will answer them. Let's see. So this wasn't his question, but something that we can talk about as people send us questions. How long do we think MJF will be out or gone or whatever? How long do you think that lasts?
It's so hard because I don't know. You really don't know if it's real or not. And I think that's the part that I'm like, man, if there really is issues, he could literally be done, like with AEW completely, if there are legitimate issues. I still think there's a work involved. I'm trying to think. Their next pay-per-view would be Full Gear or All In. I mean, outside of Forbidden Door.
It'd be All Out, I think.
All Out in, September?
No, I'm sorry. You're right. It'd be All Out.
It would be All Out?
It would be All Out.
All Out, and that's in September?
August or September. It'd be the fall. It'd be in the fall, yeah.
So
August or September.
I would probably think it'd have to be at least a pay-per-view's length away because they're going to do other storylines and other things, and they won't have anything really for him. So I'm going to say at least a pay-per-view's length. I mean, you let it go too long, and it's a dead story. He'll recover, but it won't have the same payoff that everything in wrestling feels almost immediate now. If you don't capitalize on it by a certain point, it's almost like it was too long. So maybe a pay-per-view's length between kind of Double or Nothing and All Out, but I honestly don't know. I kind of feel like there really is nothing to build off of right now with him outside of bringing him back for a title run at some point. Like you've kind of done the same story over and over with him now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what else do you do with him?
There's an interesting article that I literally just pulled up. This was posted 3 days ago on the Sportster. It basically outlines. So the title is an early prediction at 10 matches that could take place at AEW All Out this year. I'm just going to run down all 10, and then you give me your thoughts. So number 10, Young Bucks versus Red Dragon AEW World Tag Team Championship. So there definitely have to be a title change prior to All Out if that were to happen. Number 9, Hookhausen versus Team Taz. Number 8, I think this one's a foregone conclusion. I think we might actually. No, I guess if it were to be on a pay-per-view, we wouldn't see it prior to this one. Jade against Athena for the TBS Championship. If Athena is legit going to win that championship, it needs to be on a pay-per-view. I don't think you'd have it be on a Dynamite. Surely not a Rampage. I wouldn't think.
I could see it on a Dynamite like a Road Rager or something like that, just because they like to do that.
Or a Battle of the Belts, maybe. I guess
but
there's one of those coming up.
They don't typically do a lot of title changes on those, which is what's concerning.
Yeah. 7, Eddie Kingston versus Bryan Danielson. 6, Jungle Boy versus Christian Cage. 5, Blackpool Combat Club against Best Friends.
The Wheeler Yuta thing, I guess.
Yeah. Adam Cole against Darby Allin. Sorry. Thunder Rosa versus Toni Storm, AEW Women's World Championship. 2. Okay, so number 2 and number 1 both involve CM Punk. So I don't know if they're saying both of these matches or one or the other. I would assume one or the other. 2, CM Punk versus Mox, AEW Championship, or to determine the undisputed champion. And 1, CM Punk versus Wardlow, title for title. So this is also hinting at Wardlow would win the TNT Championship.
And this is all rumors for All Out?
This I wouldn't even call it rumors. This is just early predictions.
For matches that would happen at All Out.
Yeah.
I don't see Wardlow versus Punk.
I don't see. I know people are equating Wardlow to the Goldberg run in WCW.
It's not even close.
The thing I didn't like about Goldberg's run, though, is having him win the U.S. title and then the World Championship. I think you just need to bypass that mid-card championship, have him be a destructive force up until he gets the world title shot. I don't mind the the similarities as far as the Goldberg run, but you don't. He doesn't need to win the mid-card championship, whether it's TNT or All Atlantic or whatever. It's not necessary. So, anyway, your thoughts on some of those other predictions?
Let's quickly run through them and just say yay or nay.
I exited out of it, but I'll just go off the top of my head. Red Dragon and Young Bucks, I know, is one of them.
Just a regular match, no tag.
Well,
titles.
no tag title match.
So we would basically be saying the Young Bucks would win it in the.
Well, it's implying that there would be a title change at some point. Whether Red Dragon, who they could be inserted into this ladder match tomorrow as well,
would be a good one. Well, let's just say Young Bucks are already in that match. So Young Bucks win the titles here. They would be the champions. Young Bucks versus Red Dragon definitely needs to happen. I almost feel like they're pushing the storyline out longer until Kenny comes back, so they can have like a Red Dragon Adam Cole versus Young Bucks Kenny Omega feud.
So that's actually why I was going to say yay, because at that point I'd like to assume Kenny would be able to come back, and up until this point you'd be planting the seeds that Adam Cole would have to pick one or the other.
Right. Could happen. I almost feel like that's more of a Full Gear thing because you still have Full Gear in between that and Revolution. And so I almost feel like we would be seeing more of the teases of the splits and stuff at Full Gear and then having like the actual split at Revolution. So I'm not going to say it's not possible. I'm more on the maybe on that one.
Okay. I know that Team Taz versus Hookhausen was one of them.
I don't really care about that.
I don't either.
I don't. The Hookhausen thing is more comedic than it is talent, in my opinion. And both of them have more talent. Like, Danhausen really is just better off on his own. And that's just my thoughts. I think he's a better comedic gimmick, working along other talents, throughout the time that he's there, but more comedic. They really have something with Hook. Whether or not you think he's talented or not, people are behind him. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, this is where you have to use sound judgment. Build Hook up because people want to see him. They like him. Whether you like him or not, or you think he's the better ring worker or not, I just think that it makes more sense to have him go on those dominant solo runs that they were doing, have him be this very intense character, really get him in the TNT title picture or this mid-Atlantic, whatever you want to call it, title that they're doing, and allow him to win one of those and elevate himself. I think the Hookhausen thing is kind of a plateau or a step back in the wrong direction. And the Team Taz stuff just needs to stop. Powerhouse Hobbs is a waste being in that faction. And Ricky Starks to me is so good on the mic and not that he's bad in the ring, but he's definitely to me a better mic guy. I almost feel like you could have him be a manager or commentary or whatever and not have him wrestle as much just because you have better wrestlers, in my opinion, that are on the roster. So I'm just not intrigued. And if it does happen to me, it sounds like a pre-show match.
I know Jade and Athena was one.
I could see it happening. If our predictions are correct that Athena would be the one to defeat her, I think I would agree with you. It would have to happen on a pay-per-view, and obviously that's the next one.
And I'm kind of with you on this as far as if Jade wins, being done with AEW, let's put it this way. I won't stop watching AEW, but if Athena loses this, let's put it this way. If Jade retains over Athena and it be by like actual pinfall or submission to where it doesn't seem like there'd be a rematch, like if it ends in a DQ or whatever, count out.
I'm okay with long-term story building.
Yeah, but if this is an outright like Jade's going to get the win, I'm not going to go out of my way to watch AEW.
Now this has been a work for a while because they've been Twitter bashing.
Yeah.
Ever since Athena basically got released and was able to kind of do her own thing. So I think that this is long-term story building anyways because of that. I would have Athena. I mean, you can't have her lose. And this would be my complaint about AEW over and over and over again. You bring in people like Ruby Soho. You bring in people like Tony Storm. You bring in all of these names that could help elevate. And with the men's division, you do them right almost every time. Bryan Danielson. I mean, you've protected Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, John Moxley, like all these big names that you've brought in that were like top tier talents. You made sure they didn't take a loss right away. You made sure that if they did, it was like a dusty finish or a DQ or an unsanctioned match or whatever. You have constantly ruined Ruby Soho. To my opinion, Toni Storm was already ruined when she came in, but she's not some top tier talent anymore for me either. And if you keep doing that, all you have is Britt Baker. So I think you have to have Athena win here. In my opinion, it doesn't really hurt Jade to lose it because no one's really behind her.
As I say, at this point, who cares? I mean, I'm just whatever.
If you want that title to mean something, it's got to go on Athena. And so I could see it happen. That one happening.
Let's do the next few of these more rapid fire. Kingston and Danielson.
I don't really care about it. I know that like they had some good, mic, type things, but Danielson's at such a level above Kingston. Kingston's really good on the mic and very aggressive in the ring, but their styles just don't match, and I don't think the match would be that good.
I actually disagree. I would be intrigued by it just because of the brutality and the stiffness that would be.
It'd be a brutal match. It'd almost have to, for me to be interested, it'd have to be like a no DQ or some kind of a stipulated match where weapons and different things could be involved because.
Okay. Jungle Boy and Christian.
I don't know. I think the match would be good, but I don't see how you twist the storyline because Christian was with Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. So you'd almost have to either fake an injury to Luchasaurus. Otherwise, he's kind of out of the mix in that.
Mm-hmm. Blackpool Combat Club and Best Friends.
I don't really care. If they were going to do that, that should have already happened, in my opinion, because Wheeler Yuta kind of left them and whatever. I feel like you missed your opportunity.
The next one I gave my thoughts on already. Adam Cole and Darby Allin.
Good match, probably. Like there would be good spots. Like they would hit some cool executed things, but Darby's just not on the level of all these other guys they're trying to put him on with.
And I've never gotten the whole Darby thing, period. I'm not a fan.
There are some cool spots and stuff that he can do, for sure.
But that's it.
But the character, the gimmick, the mic work, even with Sting's helped a little, but Adam Cole's on a whole nother level.
Thunder Rosa, Toni Storm, Women's Championship.
Who cares?
Punk and Moxley, AEW World Championship.
Even like that one obviously is going to happen at some point. There's no timetable on Punk, which is interesting. So until I know the timetable, it's hard to say that could be a rumored or an early prediction. I'd almost think that Full Gear would be the more ideal one because you would want time to actually kind of build that storyline up a little bit better. Because it was a thrown, like it was a curveball. Yeah. So you don't want to just have them fight because they both are the champions. You want there to still be a storyline there. And if Punk doesn't, All Out's going to be 2 months away. Let's say it's August, September. We're 2 months out from it.
I'd say 3. I'd say probably early September.
Even a month and a half, 2 months. That's not a whole lot of time to build anything.
Yeah.
Full Gear seems more likely to me. John Moxley or Tanahashi. You're
whoever.
Also assuming that John Moxley wins the belt. So John Moxley or Tanahashi, either one, I think one of them will have a title defense between Punk.
You never know. Part of this whole deal with having this Forbidden Door event, maybe part of the deal is that, if you're the New Japan president or whatever, okay, if we're gonna do this, one of our guys needs to actually win the belt and hold it for X amount of time. So
I'm just saying he's already rumored that Punk and him could fight at one of the New Japan upcoming pay-per-views. So I'm just saying it's not out of the realm that Tanahashi gets the win here, especially if it's dirty, if somebody gets involved, whatever the case may be. So I'm just saying I don't think Moxley winning is a foregone conclusion.
And then we kind of already talked about this already. CM Punk and Wardlow.
I don't see Wardlow winning either of those mid-card championships before All Out. And number 2, I don't even really see him being on the level to be in the same main event picture as CM Punk. Like, you literally have him fighting security guards this Wednesday night. Like, or what was it, like 20? It's like 20 something security guards, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's stupid. So
I mean, not to mention, we haven't alluded to this. We've seen this match already, and it wasn't that good.
It's just that they're lost on him. Without MJF involved, I feel like he's not good on the mic. He almost, to me, is like a Paul Heyman type guy in the sense of he needs a strong mouthpiece to speak for him. That's why him and MJF are really good together. This is where I could be like, okay, give him a Ricky Starks or give him somebody,
Right.
Tully Blanchard, with him building his team up and stuff. I think that was a great move for Brian Cage. Not that Brian Cage isn't good on the mic, but Tully Blanchard can really elevate that for him with his legendary status and that prestige kind of feel to it. So I think Wardlow's missing that right now. He's really good in the ring, beastly looking dude, but the overall interest of him to me is not there.
Guys, unfortunately, that's going to about do it for us this week. Cole, any final thoughts?
Guys, as always, thank you for watching the greatest wrestling podcast ever. We sincerely appreciate you joining us. Again, do not forget that June 26th, we have our AEW/New Japan Forbidden Door watch party. That will start at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time for us. We'll be on an hour before the pay-per-view starts. So get your fruit snacks ready. Get your overall food and beverages ready for the evening, and we'll have a great time. That'll be Twitch only, so make sure that if you're not already following us on Twitch, that you're doing that. And if you want to avoid ads, make sure that you subscribe to our Twitch as well.
Indeed.
That way you get no ads during the event. So there is that. Also, don't forget we are on Pro Wrestling Tees, so you can go and get all of your Pro Wrestling Tees merch from us, and it's a lot easier now because you don't have to deal with us. So you can go to Pro Wrestling Tees /Going Broadway podcast and get all of that merch, and we appreciate you doing that as well. So with that being said, Thomas Russell, yes, again, thank you for the jersey. I did open it at the beginning of the show. I did not try it on yet, but I'm going to. And I do believe after one or two wears of it, I will actually be framing it and putting it in my office with all of my other John Cena collectibles.
Before you frame it, you might try to see if you can get him to sign it at some point.
I actually was going to look to see if he ever does like autograph signings in different places, because it would be really legit to take like some of my other John Cena merch too and get some of it.
You're just like, can you sign all this?
This big old box of like, I'd probably take one of my belts and have him sign one of the belts too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I am very appreciative of that, man. Like, that is a super cool gift. People don't know, like, those are the things that are on my wish list are definitely going to be the things that like make me almost tear up. So, thank you so much. I did do an unboxing of it, and I am very appreciative. So thank you for that. And thank you guys for joining us today. But
quick reminder, we won't be live next week either. Next week, Thursday, June
23rd, we
June
have
23rd.
a watch along that will be happening on our Twitch only. So again, that's another reason to be subscribed and following that page. So we'll be on there. And who knows, you might just see me and Alex both in the chat still. Anyways, I can't guarantee my freedom because I'm working at a camp next week. So we'll see how that goes. But regardless, I'm excited for this month and to get some of these other interviews rescheduled. So be on the lookout for that. But until
then, guys, hold on. Before you give the people what they want, you never know when we're going to do giveaways. So wink, wink. You might want to tune in for the watch along.
Ooh.
Sunday the 26th. Sunday, June 26th.
You never know.
Anyway.
We usually give a lot of giveaways during our watch parties, so just a little teaser there.
Wink, wink.
But until then, I leave you with your favorite thing in the entire world.
Oh! Guys, thanks so much for joining us. We will see you for a watch party.
This podcast was a presentation of lightupmedia.fm.